In this episode, I will be looking at the reason why the United States of America's led sanctions on Russia are a failure. I will dive into geopolitics here, look at some numbers, dive into economic analysis, and also give perspective and draw some contrasting information, and more importantly, why the war in Ukraine is nowhere near an end. I will encourage you to watch this video to the end for clarity and better understanding. So without any more delay, let's just dive straight into it. Since the end of the Cold War, the United States of America has meted out economic punishment, both as a means of coercion and a moral warfare tool, rendering it a de facto accompaniment in the naming and shaming of various foes of the United States. The largest sanctions of all have been imposed on Russia in response to the invasion of Ukraine. Unfortunately, this case has also become the greatest example of the failures of sanctions to achieve their desired results. Together with the failure of the Ukrainian counter-offensive, this has contributed to the growing belief that this war may end in stalemate or even Russian victory. If you look at analyst perspective, by 2021, the United States of America had already imposed over 8,000 sanctions on individuals and companies globally, targeting regional sectors in range of countries. In the last 2 years, this number has seen an astronomical increase. According to a Columbian University database, the Office of Foreign Assets Control (OFAC) holds comprehensive sanctions on 6 countries and 3 regions. Targeted export sanctions extend to 19 countries, including Belarus, Afghanistan, and also Libya, Sudan, and including Zimbabwe, prohibiting under the United States law any financial and commercial relations with designated companies or individuals in those particular countries. If you look at geopolitics in play, on multitudinous occasions, those United States of America-led sanction regimes have been found to inflict asymmetric burdens on impoverished foreign citizens and also hinder democratization, and in the most serious cases, exacerbate humanitarian crises in violation of international law. In the days following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in late February of 2022, President Biden introduced a series of allies also coordinated sanction packages targeting Russia's weapon industry, technological export, foreign asset, banks of Russia, energy companies of Russia, and also wealthy businessmen in Russia. Western states then went on to completely isolate Russia from the global financial market. In those measures, lay a hope that such a severe sanction regime will not only impair Russia's workable and also war-making capabilities, but cripple support from political elites so drastically that Putin's technocratic regime would collapse based on their own perspective. Nearly 2 years into the war, the Biden administration introduction of new sanction packages every other month since February 2022 has not toppled the Russian regime or led it to agree to Western demands for a withdrawal from Ukraine. Russia's increasingly allocation of national gross domestic products to defense, which is predicted to reach an all-time high of 6%, stand a proof of this unpleasant truth. According to expert James Galbraith of the Institute for New Economic think tank remarks that most Western studies on the Russian economy today begin with the questions of how badly it is doing. This framework focuses on finding pain in the Russian economy and highlighting reliance on the confirmation bias, forgoes the intellectual distance necessary to articulately or accurately pinpoint the roots of sanctions failure. If you look at other perspective as we continue in this episode, there is no doubt that Russia's economy is feeling the impact of sanctions. Its aviation and also car manufacturing sectors were particularly affected, with a decline of 80% due to inaccessible components. The collapse of Western direct investment combined with capital flight and also severe brain drain foreshadows decades of economic struggle for Russia's future generations. If you look at other perspective, still, this is nowhere near the outcome promised by the United States of America's official. Claims that the Russian economy is about to collapse seems stem from a need to reassure voters who are suffering from collateral sanctions damage, be it rising energy prices or deteriorating living standards. If you look at the European perspective, as they continue to drag the war with regards to Russia's interactions with the European Union, the most widely discussed reasons for the failure of Russian sanction focus on issues India enforcement. They are bypassing by southern states in complex supply chains, the loopholes of dual-use goods export, and companies reluctant to comply hurt businesses with Russian market. It is also clear that Western planners greatly underestimated the worldwide willingness, including by Western partners like India, to reject sanctions and continue buying Russian energy. Most recently, a Pogo report found that even the United States of American Department of Defense has remained a loyal client of Russian oil. However, one can also credit Russia's economic planning for cushioning the blow of the sanction. At the very outset of the war, the government in Russia and the central bank promptly reacted with a combination of restrictions on the free flow of capital and a 20% increase in interest rate. In only 2 months after the invasion, banks saw 90% of initially withdrawn funds return to Russian accounts. After 20 months, a war economy has replaced Russia's pre-war export diversification and technological innovation priorities. Moscow's gross domestic product shows a resilient growth of 2.2% if you look at 2023, with an International Monetary Fund only recently altering its predictions for the year of 2024 from 2.8% to 1.1%. Despite severe capital flight, Russia's current account surplus grew to about 16.6 billion in the third quarter of the year, looking at 2023, reflective of a large increase in foreign trade despite Western sanctions regimes. There are, however, questions about the reliability of the official figures, especially given that Russian trade statistics were made private for over a year, resuming only in March of 2023. In line with fortress Russia's economy, the government recently imposed new measures compelling Russian exports in energy, metal, agriculture to convert their foreign currency earnings into rubles and release new duties on non-oil export. If you look at geopolitics in play, overall, anti-dollar strategies and currency swap have pushed Russia closer to countries such as China, Iran, and Turkey, some of which state the aim of combining also curbing the American financial influence. If you look at African countries like the president of Kenya and other countries who are actually saying that the United States high interest rate is affecting their dollar amount in terms of paying their interest rate. This illustrates another danger in the United States sanction. Far from strengthening US global power, they are in fact spurring other countries to reduce their economic dependency on the United States of America. It appears therefore that the West may have to rethink its sanction policy as each side of the conflict begins to fortune the possibility of a non-military resolution. Western states must also face the difficult truth that sanctions and Russia's frozen sovereign debt could become being a necessary sacrifice in the negotiation if Russia is to be brought to the marketplace. If you look at other perspective, indisputable timing will be of key importance to what is perhaps still a present and unimaginable step for most United States officials. If proposed prematurely and initiated to ease sanctions on Russia, will also risk backfiring politically, which is why it will be broadened in entire confidential talk with Russia. Sanction relief should come only as part of a settlement and should be accompanied by firm and also binding guarantees that the sanctions will be automatically reimposed in the event of fresh Russian aggressions. The failure of sanctions against Russia echoes a long series of such failures against Cuba for 60 years, Iran, Iraq, and also North Korea and elsewhere. While they may have some utility or bargaining leverage in negotiation, this only applies, as in the case of Russia, if the United States of America is prepared to lift them in return for agreement. What is more, sanctions setting betray a pattern of sickiness only legislated by the Congress of the United States of America. U.S. sanctions have historically tended to become permanent. It is high time that the United States of America recognize the clear lessons of modern history and modified its approach to the intermittently useful, albeit deeply flawed, strategy of economic coercions. If you look at different aspects, as Russia continues to move closer to China and African countries with the withdrawal of France in the African continent, Russia is continuing to increase its relationship with African countries and build its strategic options. If you look at geopolitics in play, considering BRICS, as Russia and China are going a lot closer and also looking for other aspects with regards to dealing with the African countries, several African countries have also felt the pinch with regards to the sanction in Russia, as Russia's also presence is also feeling that it's time for the country to move a little bit closer to Africa, as several African countries are beginning to charter their own path, moving ahead to look for new partners that will be a win-win situation in their own individual country situation. As the US continue to impose sanctions on countries to let them also abide to some of the rules and regulations which that may not be very important in their own region, we all shall continue to see those impacts, and that why some of those sanctions will not have any major impact in those different countries, as the case of Russia has shown that those sanctions have their own limitation. We want to thank you for watching. If you are new to our channel, we encourage you to subscribe, share our video, and watch other informative and educating content on this YouTube channel. We want to thank you for watching. We're looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye bye.